Welcome to the VCU-ACE video resource, Let's Make a Schedule. In this video, we'll show you how to make different schedules for your child. Schedules are an important part of all our lives. We all use schedules to know when to pay bills, where to go to for meetings, and they remind us of important deadlines. Because children with ASD typically have strong visual processing skills and sometimes struggle with expectations, transitions, and time management, schedules are a crucial part of a successful day. Schedules teach expectations. Schedules tell a child what to do, where to go, and when to do something. They also help children who struggle with transitions by alerting them to what will happen next. A schedule can assist with flexibility by preparing children for changes in their day. Children with ASD will need to see a schedule even if they seem like a go-with-the-flow kind of child. Ultimately, a schedule will help with overall time management as the child experiences more activities in their day. Children with ASD will also need an individualized schedule. A schedule can show a child many events throughout their day, or it can show a child what will happen through just a small portion of their day. Every child is different, and what they need will be different. Finally, children with ASD will need you to teach them what the schedule means. Putting a schedule up on the wall is not enough. You'll want to explain what each item is, refer to it when talking about what is next, and may even need to prompt a child to use or look at their schedule. There are many different types of schedules you can use with a child. Remember, every child is different, so what they need will also be different. You can start with a first-then schedule. This type of schedule helps teach the idea of a schedule by breaking it down into only 2 items. First, there is the less preferred activity. Then the child gets the more preferred activity. Next, there is an object schedule. Once a child learns the idea of an if-then schedule, they can progress to using a longer schedule that uses an object to represent an activity throughout the day. Next, there is a picture schedule which uses real photographs of items or people that are involved in different activities. Then we have an icon-based schedule that uses general icons or illustrations of an activity. These can look a little more abstract, and some children might not understand what the icon or drawing is supposed to represent. Then there is the highest form of a schedule, a written schedule. Very young children might have words accompanying the object or photograph or icon, but would probably not use just a written schedule just yet. Finally, there is an electronic schedule. Because so many families have smartphones or tablets, an electronic schedule is also an option. It will be important to use what you have. While it is nice to have a fancy laminated schedule to use, it is not always feasible. Most of us have to use what we have and make do. There are plenty of options. In this photo, you'll see a folder with handwriting and actual objects to represent activities on the schedule, which include cutouts from cereal boxes and breakfast food items. It also includes a toothbrush and toothpaste and a sock to represent getting dressed. In this photo, you'll see another example of an icon-based schedule. These icons were printed off and taped to the folder to use as a schedule. Notice the question mark. This builds in flexibility by preparing a child for a change in the schedule. Some of us have access to iPads or smartphones, and it's easy to create electronic schedules that you can take with you on the go. Let's watch a quick video that shows you how to make a schedule on your computer to use with smartphones, iPads, or even just print off. Okay, so this is the Canva website. If you don't have an account, you'll have to sign up. So you can see over here in this corner where my cursor is, it says sign up. So you want to click on that. You can sign up with Google over here. You can also sign up with Facebook, or you can just sign up with an email. So let's go ahead and I'll sign up with my email. So I'll put my first and last name here. I'll use my email here. I'll put in a password, and you have to use what it says here with 8 or more characters, and I'll come up with let's see. Okay, so I have that in. I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's free. Click there. Okay, so it's ask what you're going to be using Canva for. And obviously you're going to be here probably for personal reasons, but it really doesn't matter. It just is they're going to recommend different designs and templates for you based off of your role, but we're going to try and do anything and everything here. So we're going to not worry about the Canva Pro. That is something that you have to pay for. Obviously here it's showing it's try it free for 30 days, but we're going to try and just stick to free programs and free assets. So we'll hit maybe later. So let's start with our first design. You can choose from a variety of different options here. So these are what are most popular. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what all that they have, but these are the most popular. Okay, so this is the Canva website. If you don't have an account, you'll have to sign up. So you can see over here in this corner where my cursor is, it says sign up. So you want to click on that. You can sign up with Google over here. You can also sign up with Facebook, or you can just sign up with an email. So let's go ahead and I'll sign up with my email. So I'll put my first and last name here. I'll use my email here. I'll put in a password, and you have to use what it says here with 8 or more characters, and I'll come up with let's see. Okay, so I have that in. I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's free. Click there. Okay, so it's ask what you're going to be using Canva for. And obviously you're going to be here probably for personal reasons, but it really doesn't matter. It just is they're going to recommend different designs and templates for you based off of your role, but we're going to try and do anything and everything here. So we're going to not worry about the Canva Pro. That is something that you have to pay for. Obviously here it's showing it's try it free for 30 days, but we're going to try and just stick to free programs and free assets. So we'll hit maybe later. Okay, now that you're in Canva, you can see there's lots of different options for making different kinds of products. And so a lot of the categories could be something like here, you see a class schedule, a poster, you can make logos, you can even make some short videos, you can make a presentation. There's all kinds of options here. But if we're going to make a schedule for a child, I like these first two options the best. Class schedule kind of style or a poster. Now a poster is longer, and so this would be if you have one long schedule that goes from morning to night. So you're going to need a little bit longer space there, right? And then for a class schedule here, the size is a regular page. And so I'm going to use class schedule. This is just the style. This doesn't mean that we're making a class schedule. We're still making an individual schedule for a child. So we're going to click on that. And you'll see we have a blank canvas here, right? We can do a lot with this, and we can sort of create this from scratch. Or if you'll see over here on the side, there's a lot of different templates. And these templates are, somebody has already created a different type of schedule. But as you can see, they really look like they're more for a school or a class or a child who has multiple classes. And we're just trying to make something that's a schedule for the home. And so, we're going to kind of ignore these, but lots of different options and lots of free options if you're looking for it too. So we're going to just go ahead and minimize that part. But the first thing we want to do is personalize this, and we want to make this your child's schedule. So I'm going to suggest that you add a couple of elements here. So we're going to go to Elements first, over here on the left-hand side. We're going to click on that. And you will see down here we have grids in this section. And we have shapes and we have frames. Now these are all very useful things. A grid just basically divides the page up into different little sections that you can use for different colors or different topics. Shapes and frames you can actually add to this document as well. And so I'm actually going to use a frame. I like this circle one here. So I'm going to click on this. And you see it's right in the middle of the screen here, right? We don't necessarily need a big circle in the middle. We need one in the corner that says this is Jack's schedule, right? And so we're going to resize this a little bit, make it a little more manageable. And then I'm just going to click and drag all the way up to the top left corner. And so right about there, we'll stick this. And then what I would do is, if I'm going to individualize this for a child, I want to put their picture on it so that they know that this is their schedule. This is really important for young children who aren't reading yet and they can't read that this is Jack's schedule. They need to see that this is their picture on it, that way they know it's theirs. So I would go to Uploads, and you can add any picture of your child that you want. So you could upload any image that you have of your child. I'm going to use one of my son from a long time ago when he was very little. And so we're just going to click on it and drag it to that circle. So click and drag. Okay, so here we are, clicking and dragging over to the circle. And if you see, it actually ends up being in that full circle just like that. And so that's a nice way to say, okay, this is Jack's schedule. And then I'm going to add some text because you never know when a child is reading. And so we're going to go ahead and add a heading. We're going to click over here on text on the left, and then we're going to go to add a heading. And then I'm going to put that back there. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to drag it. I'm going to make it a little smaller too. That seems a little big. And then I'm just going to click inside that, and I'm going to retype it, Jack's schedule. Okay. And click outside of that. And once you click inside this box, you can change that font to something else, right? You can change it to all kinds of options. Now, if you'll see, there's a little crown here next to some of the fonts. Those are for people who have the Pro version or the premium version. And if you're just using the free version, don't just ignore all those ones with the crown. You can use tons of free ones on here. So don't worry, you have plenty of options even if you're just using the free version. So let's keep it as is, though. I like that one. And the next part we're going to do is we're going to need to add some frames, some little squares for each part of the schedule. Now, what I might do for a very young child is I might divide this up into almost like a mini schedule, right? I might not necessarily have one for the entire day just yet, especially if we're just learning how to use a schedule. I might start with, if it's a very young child who's never been exposed to any kind of schedule at all, I might start with just 2 items, like a first and then sort of situation. So let's do an example of a first then. Okay, so let's go over here to Elements again, and let's look for some frames again. What might we have? Or actually, maybe I'll just use a shape. Let's just use a nice little shape here, just like that. We'll use a square. Okay. So this is pretty big. Let's make it a little smaller again. So we're just going to click on the corner and drag it. And then I'm going to click in the middle and drag it to where I want. And I'm going to put it down over here. If you notice this pink square lines here on the screen, that's just kind of a guide for you to make sure things are centered or that you're using, everything's kind of aligns together. You can use them, you can not use them, don't worry about it. So I'm just going to put that there. And then I want another one because I've got a first and a then. And so I'm going to just duplicate this square. So I'm clicked on it, and then I'm going to come up here to where it says duplicate. I'm going to click the button, and now I have 2 squares. So I'll just come down here and I'll click in the center of this square and I'll drag it over to this section. Whoops, there we go. Okay, so I actually might want to make that a little bigger here. So we've got some room. There we go. Okay, now what I might do then is I need some words too. So I'm going to put some text in again. So I'm going to click over here on the left on text, and I'm going to add another heading. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put first. Okay, and then I'm going to move it. So you see this little cross here? This is just a way to move certain items, especially as they get smaller. That becomes really important because if it's really small like this, sometimes it's really hard to click in that. And so then you could just move it around with that cross. But we want ours to be a little bigger than that, so let's come back to that size. And we're going to move it over here so that we know that this is first. And then I'm going to duplicate this actually and move this one over here. And I'm going to change this to then. Okay, so now the child has 2 options, and we're going to do first something that is kind of an unpreferred activity, something I don't really want to do is usually how we set this up. And then it is followed by something I do like or something I'm really motivated by, right? And so let's think about all the things in a child's schedule that they might want to do and things that they might not want to do. So, if we're getting up the first thing in the day, Some children might want to run and go play first. And so let's think about, before we go play, let's think about maybe having breakfast first. So a couple of options for this are, if you have a child who needs photographs, real photographs of things. So you can go over here to the left side and click on photos. And you have lots of options here. And let's say we want something for cereal. Let's put cereal on here. Let's see what comes up. Okay, so our first one here looks like some Cheerios. And you'll notice here too that we have in the corner, it says free. That's what we're looking for here, right? We want free things. You'll see sometimes where it says pro. You want to avoid things that say pro because those are going to cost money, and we don't want to do that. We want all free things. There's plenty of free options. You will find things. So we're going to click on free, the free picture. Now it's way too big, right? So we need to resize this to match the square that we have over here. And so we can just kind of center that, and then we have this gray background. We can change the gray background if we want to a different color. If you want something a little more colorful, you can use that. You can kind of use colors too. So like we might even use a green. Green means go. We might use just colors that we like. You can use whatever you want. Okay, and then let's see. Now we know that this child's going to want to play afterwards. And so let's maybe do, let's find a highly preferred activity that a young child might like Legos. Let's see if there are any pictures for Legos. There are a couple. Now just remember, some of these might be free and some of these might be the pro version over here. So we don't want the pro version, we want the free ones. And so we can do a picture of a child that has some Legos here. You also have the option of uploading a picture of your own Legos, right? Some of our children are going to be very specific and they want a picture of the things that they use rather than some generic stock photo that somebody has uploaded to this site. So I'm going to click on this free one though of Batman and Superman Legos, and I'm going to resize this to match the size over here. And I'm going to kind of make sure it's centered with the other one and see if I can make it a little bigger there to where it fills that whole frame. So now we have a very simple first then schedule for a child. And if you have a child that is moving beyond photographs and can use icons, we can use all kinds of things. So let's go ahead and try an icon actually. Let's take out cereal and Batman and Superman Legos here. And I'm going to change the color of this to another color. Let's maybe an orange. There we go. We've got nice contrast here. But let's find some icons if we have a child who's using icons instead of photographs. So let's go to Elements. Okay, so now that we're over here in Elements, let's search for breakfast. Okay, so we have some options here. We have just a piece of toast here. Now you'll notice these also have some that have the crown and are the pro version, and we're not going to use those. Remember, we're just looking for free ones. I'm actually going to pick the egg here, which is free, and it looks like an icon here. We're going to resize this to be the size of the square here. We're going to center that right there. And now we need one for the then, so we need a toy icon. So let's go back to Elements, and let's click on Toys. And let's use this beach ball down here. This is a free one, so we're going to click on this. And we're going to resize it. And we're going to move it over to the square. Center it. There we go. Perfect. Okay, and so now we have a first then with icons. And as you can see, they're a little bit more abstract, right? So it depends on your child's abilities and their needs. If they can use a real photograph, that's great. If they can use an icon, that's great too. If they need real photographs and they want their own, be sure to upload your own photographs of your own particular breakfast table or your child's favorite toys. Okay, so let's make a longer schedule. Okay, so now we're going to start over and we're going to do a different type of schedule rather than just two. We're going to do a mini schedule for the morning. So we're going to come over here to Elements and we're going to add these squares again. So I'm going to resize this, and I'm going to go with try and fit 4 boxes on here. Let's see if I can do it. Actually, not that size, I don't think. Let's go a little smaller. All right, so let's duplicate that and drag it down. Duplicate it again, drag it down, and duplicate one more time. We're going to drag it down. Oops. There we go. Okay, so now we have a schedule here. So let's look at the first box. And so this would be something like breakfast, right? So let's go to photos. With this child, we're going to use real photos. And we're going to have, we had cereal. So let's do cereal. And we have this bowl of cereal here that we're going to use. And we're going to resize this to be the same size as this box here. And we're going to center it. And then we can change the background of the gray box by clicking on that. And we'll just choose a nice blue color. Okay, and so next we're going to do Legos. Remember we had Legos and we had Batman and Superman. We're going to resize those. Make those a little smaller. And let's drag them up here. Let's make it a little smaller than that. And then we'll have to make it even smaller. And then we'll center it. Okay, so let's add something else in after this activity where a child can transition from playing with toys to how about playing outside? So let's look for a photograph. Let's go over here to the left again and click on photos. And let's click a swing to represent going outside. And so we have a couple of different options here. I'm going to pick this first one. And of course it's a little bigger, so we're going to have to make it smaller. And I'm going to kind of bring that in a little. And then I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to make it a little smaller here. Okay, so we have a swing now. And let's go ahead and make the background colors all match. That one. We'll go ahead and click this one while we're at it. So I think maybe the next thing on the schedule might be washing hands. Okay, let's go ahead and find a photo for hand washing. Let's click on photos here on the left. Let's type in hand washing. Okay, the first one here, we have a picture of hand washing. It's free. We're going to go ahead and click on it. And of course, we're going to resize this because that's way too big. So let's bring this down, maybe bring in the side a little bit here, make it a little more square. And let's make it a little smaller so it fits. And let's make it fit the square. There we go. Okay, so now we have a schedule. Now, I would also add in some words because you never know when a child is reading. So we're going to go back over here to text. And let's click add a heading. And we're going to have breakfast as our first word. So we're going to change that to say breakfast. Now this is way too big, so we're going to make this smaller. Let's come down here to maybe a 48. Okay, we have to make that a little wider to fit everything in there. Okay, so now we have breakfast. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate, and we're going to hit duplicate and bring it on down here. Make sure it's centered with everything. And we'll go ahead and change that from breakfast to Legos. Okay, let's go ahead and duplicate that and bring it down. Make sure it all aligns. And we'll put outside. And then we'll duplicate that. Bring it down, make sure it all aligns. And then we'll put wash. Now we could make this wash hands. You know, we could add a little bit, but I encourage you to keep this simple. We want one word with these. We don't necessarily need an entire sentence. Okay, so now we're done with our schedule here. We have a nice mini schedule for just the morning. We could actually make that an afternoon schedule just the exactly same way that we did this one. We could make a longer schedule. Remember, if you're going to do a full day schedule, you probably want a poster size rather than the calendar version here that we have. So now that we're done, we need to do something with this, right? And so we want to come up here on the right-hand side. You'll see this arrow right here. And this means we're going to download it. And so you just click on that and you have a couple of options to download. You can download in a PDF file. You can do a JPEG or you can do a PNG file. It really just depends on what you want. And you can also pick different pages. So where we did a first then on page 1, we could print just that one, or we could print all of them. It just depends on what you want to do. And so you can either, once you print this, you could, once you download this, you could print this and put it on your refrigerator or your front door or a place where your child is going to see their schedule. You could also put this on an iPad. You could put it on a smartphone. You could put it on your computer if that's what your child uses. You basically want to put this schedule wherever your child's going to use it the most. And so it depends on what that is. It's going to be different for every child. But now you know how to make a very simple schedule using Canva, using only free aspects of it, with a free account and free elements and free photos. You could also do the same thing with PowerPoint. So if you have PowerPoint and clip art, you can do the exact same thing. So there's lots of different options, and this is just one way to do it. Schedules teach children what to do, where to go, and when to do something. Schedules also assist with transitions, help children adjust to changes, and aid children with time management. Schedules also increase independence and decrease anxiety. Don't forget to individualize your child's schedule based off their needs and abilities. You can use a first-then schedule, an object schedule, a picture schedule, an icon-based schedule, or an electronic schedule.